episode of AngularAir. I'm your host, Justin, and on today's episode, we are going to be talking about Auth in Angular. Should be pretty cool. So let's get into it. We'll say hi to our panelists, then we'll meet our guest, and then we'll learn some stuff. Sound good? Sounds good. I don't know why I asked the question. I don't know if anybody's going to answer me. So anyways, Mike, how's it going?
Not too bad. I'm ready to learn stuff.
Nice. You're always ready to learn stuff, right?
Because I don't know much, but that's okay. Keep learning, keep getting better.
I disagree. I've known you a while. You know all kinds of stuff. Alyssa!
I'm trying to learn more useful stuff.
I think there's
we were waiting and we told him we were waiting on you. I told him in the chat that we were waiting for you, and Connie wanted to know if you were wearing your chicken suit.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't know about the chicken suit.
Oh yes, there is. DevReach is next week, and I might have a glorious chicken suit to go along with it. So
that's so cool. Robshin's in the chat too. Say hi to Rob. He's been joining us in office hours, and he's a really cool guy.
All right, so Alyssa's joining us. Alyssa, how's it going?
So good. So excited. Hi, Sam. Hi.
Speaking of cool guys, hey, man.
The Bonnie reveal thing of the guest.
I was going to say, you just pulled a Bonnie.
He's like right there, you guys. Like I can.
I mean, I'm already here. So
like, if in the chat you didn't know who our guest was today, I'm scared for you, right? Like, wow.
Spoiler.
you make an excellent argument. All right, well, Bonnie, how's it going, Bonnie?
It's good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
I'm very excited about our guest today.
And our guest, Sam. Sam, hey, how's it going?
Hello. It's going great. Very happy to be here.
Great to have you back on.
Are those like theater curtains behind you? They're like...
They do look like that, don't they? No, it's a panel. It's like an audio dampening panel.
I love it. It looks really good.
It's nice because it's collapsible. You can roll it up and move it away. So at the end of the day, I can like move it out of the way, and I actually have a functional office again.
Okay, nice. You're not off in like some corner like I am. Like,
yeah.
We lost Mike. Is that okay? Or is anyone worried?
Oh, he's back.
Yeah! I'm here. I was just being polite. I was finishing the lunch. That's all.
Got to get everything in today, you know. It must be a busy Friday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ready for the weekend.
All right, so we're talking Auth today, and my phone's ringing. Let me just stop that. Don't
tell him you're busy, Justin.
I tell you. Anyways, authorization today in Angular. Sam, I think you know a little bit about that, right? I think we've had you on before to talk about this as well.
I was trying to remember. We might have, yeah. I think I've only been on AngularAir once or twice. I don't think I've been on too many times. So I think we probably did talk about like maybe NGRX auth or something like that. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's all a blur at this point. But
did we do an episode with upgrading as well from AngularJS? Maybe way back.
I would assume so.
Yeah, back in the day.
I mean, that would make sense back in the day. Although it's still a big issue, still a big thing. I'm still talking at Enterprise NGConf about upgrade. It's still happening.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm chatting with you about the stuff that I know about you, but maybe you could share with the viewers more about yourself so they can kind of get in the conversation.
That's probably a good point. That's probably a good point. So yeah, my name is Sam Julien, and I am a developer advocate at Auth0, which is an identity as a service platform. I'm also I love to teach, so I'm an instructor for both Thinkster and Egghead. I've also created the course upgradingangularjs.com, which is kind of the go-to resource for NG upgrade. And then I recently wrote a book called Getting Started in Developer Relations. So that's me in a nutshell.
How is the book going? Where can you get that?
That covers Monday. What'd you do the rest of the week?
I know, right? Like, seriously.
Man?
Yeah, it's gettingstartedindevrel.com. And also, if you sign up for my newsletter on samjulien.com, I send the first chapter of it. Yeah, the book. it was part of it had been in my head for a really long time. And then my friend Joe Praveet, who is a dev advocate for Facebook, he started doing these 2-week product launch challenges. And so he formed this little Discord server, and like 8 or 10 of us at a time have been like trying to build and launch a product in 2 weeks. And to be fair, this was something that I had been like thinking about and planning for a really long time. I didn't just like create it out of thin air in 2 weeks, but I wrote it in 2 weeks. And it's about 70 pages. But yeah, it's just a book to help people who are like DevRel curious to learn about like what developer relations is and what developer advocates do, and how they might be able to do some of that on their own to either build their career or prep for a job interview or things like that. So it's just sort of to help people kind of dip their toes into the DevRel waters, if you will. So yeah.
Nice. I was looking up that URL, and so I could throw something down here.
Oh yeah, I can.
Entry point for
that, and then there's my website. But yeah, the big reason I wanted to come on today was because we a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, Auth0 released a new Angular SDK for Auth and Angular, and it's legit. Like, it's really great. We've had like a kind of gone back and forth a lot, because our last SDK, when we created the Angular Quick Start, it was all the underlying like single page application SDK is all promise based. And so when we launched the Quick Start for that, it was all using async await, and the Angular community basically erupted and basically the world was on fire because nobody used async await in Angular. So then we went and we talked to a bunch of really smart RxJS people, and we made this beautiful, elegant RxJS like wrapper for the SDK. But it was a little too, with RxJS, like, you got to be careful getting too elegant with it, because then it becomes impossible to debug. So like all of these like normal Angular developers who aren't like Ben Lash and Michael Ladke are like, how does this work? I don't know how to do this. What, like, this broke and I can't possibly debug it. So we went back to the drawing board and we created like an actual full-on like Angular SDK, and it's awesome. It's like it includes like a guard and an interceptor and an auth service, and you literally just like drop it into your ng module and configure it, and then like use it. It's awesome. It exposes a bunch of observables that you can subscribe to, and so I wanted to talk about that, and then yeah, we can just chat about auth in general and Angular and like how it works and all that stuff.
I want to say thank you, though, because it would have been really easy to say, hey, we've got this promise-based thing. Let's just wrap it and use RxJS's from. And instead of it being a promise, it'll just be an observable that completes automatically. But by going back to the drawing board and say, hey, how can we provide real value to the Angular community? I think that's awesome.
Yeah, well, yeah, there are a number of, there at the time, there have been a number of us in the Angular community who work for Auth0, and so we have a vested interest in the Angular community. We definitely heard the feedback and wanted to both times of the feedback we wanted to listen to and help the community, and not just be like, just deal with it, It's hard writing.
What I really like about the Auth team is you guys put a lot of resources out in the community that are even helpful, even if you're not using Auth. It's still like these resources are helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting having to iterate on these things and do the best practices for each framework. Like we wrote a React SDK, and that is, obviously radically different than what the Angular SDK does, and So props to our SDK team for always being so flexible on those things. But so no pun intended on props. But
nice.
A little React joke for everybody.
Nice. We got props in NGRX.
That's true.
To a degree, so
yeah, hey, we do. The action,
pull it back in there.
Action creators, yeah.
Careful, you're going to get some puns out of him, Justin. If you get him started, it's hard to stop. You can't stop the puns.
I am totally okay with that. Hopefully our viewers are too. I would imagine everybody is. I'm totally okay. So pun away.
I feel like if you just even mention NGRX, the puns come.
I know. Did you all see that sweatshirt that they made of the like bread, the NGRX as bread? Oh, man, NGRX.
Yeah, it's like a cupboard or something with like the ingredients.
Yes, I'll find it. I think I've got the link in my history. I'll paste it in our.
I remember watching.
Yeah,
Mike
we
and
need
Brandon
to show this because I haven't seen it.
I was watching Mike and Brandon on stage, and Mike just kept one with the puns, and every time he did it, and Brandon was just groaning more and more, and it was just the more upset Brandon got, the funnier it was, and it was just I loved it.
I know. I really miss conferences. I really miss like in-person conferences. I miss all of you people. It's
really
hard
Mike
to.
and Brandon.
Yeah,
they were really scary to me in the beginning because NGRX was advanced and they were like very professional and serious. But like the more that like we all got to know them, the sillier they got. Like they were always silly, but we just didn't see that side of them. And I think it brings down the intimidation factor a lot when you know like how lovable they are. Yeah. Or you know how lovable they are.
Yeah. NGRX is a really sophisticated piece of engineering, and so you don't expect the maintainers to be so lovable.
Why are you not a robot?
Fergus said he needs to hear more bread jokes.
Yeah.
Wait, did we get the?
I'm sorry, I shouldn't encourage him.
I pasted it in the private chat.
Okay.
I'm not able to post in the public one for some reason.
YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
She strips her out.
I'm gonna try.
And if you tried it, like even put like spaces between each thing, it still strips it out. Like
yeah.
All right, there we go. I think I can do it. The AngularAir account can do it. So
good.
All right, so authorization. We're talking like single sign-on type solution, but also other type of
pretty much anything else. It'd probably be helpful to define the terms. So we have authentication is proving you are who you say you are. And then authorization is, do you have permission to access these resources that you're trying to get to? So the authentication side is usually, you enter in your credentials, whether that's like login and password or using like a Google or Facebook or something like that. And then your kind of like backend will figure out what it is you're supposed to have permission for and attach this little artifact called a token back in the response. And then you attach that little token in your call to your API, and your API can check it and say like, oh, yep, Justin has these permissions and can access these resources. And that's sort of the nutshell of what Auth looks like. So in Angular, go ahead.
No, so you're able to basically take all of the pain of, hey, who are you? And essentially abstract that away. So I don't have to worry about trying to find out who you are. All I have to do is worry about managing what you can do.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, instead of having to kind of write all of that yourself, because you would need some sort of, authorization server that can check those login credentials and all of that stuff, and then check whatever your permissions store is, whether it's in a database or somewhere else, and package up a response with a token and send that all back to the front end so that then the front end can do whatever it needs, like call APIs or display a profile or user preferences or things like that.
And then Auth0 provides a solution for all of that.
Right. Yeah. So what Auth0 does is Auth0 will handle the like user store, whether that's in your own database or in ours, but it'll handle that stuff like adding users, updating their login and password, all that stuff. Can handle like multi-factor authentication, all that kind of thing. It'll also handle creating the tokens, managing the sessions, all that. It'll handle with the SDK, it handles the like process of going and getting the token. And then usually what you would do, regardless of what provider you are using, you would write like an auth service that makes all those calls. You would write like an HTTP interceptor to attach the token to your outbound API requests. You would write like an auth guard that would, protect a route so that people can't get to a route if you're not logged in. So in our SDK, we just provide all that stuff for you, and you just literally import it and configure it, and then you're done.
And from the authentication side, when you're trying to identify the user, right? Auth0 provides the opportunity for that login experience to be driven by Auth0. So like if you have single sign-on, and it's kind of questions, right? You have single sign-on, then our application can launch that, and Auth0 will handle opening up, redirecting to the provider, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Or if you want to roll with username, password login, Auth0 can provide that login experience form. Or can you also hand roll it on our application side to say we interface with the SDK of Auth0, but we present the username, password login? Is that possible as well?
You can customize it. Yeah, you would probably, you can customize it however you want. Because really you can instead of using the like built-in stuff, you can kind of tweak it to however you want it to be. I'm not sure if with front-end applications, I can't remember if you can totally disable the Auth0 login or not. I would assume you can, but I haven't actually looked at that. I should look at that. Yeah. I hardly ever get asked that because most people don't want to write a login form. So they just ask if they can put their colors and their logo on it, and then they're happy. But yeah, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to, because you could just kind of, all you really need is the Auth0 as like your like identity, your provider. Basically, it doesn't really need to provide like the UI and stuff like that. It's just behind the scenes, that's just calling an endpoint, to send you to the next place. So
I think what's nice, if you do adopt it and say, look, I'm going to let Auth0 handle that, so I'm going to have a login button on my app, it's going to launch the Auth0 experience. Then whatever provider is being used, that's already handled outside of your app. You're like, your app is saying log in, and then you can go and configure, hey, I want to allow Twitter and Microsoft as the providers, or just straight user password, or I want to turn those off. And that's all driven by that configuration from your authorization provider, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then the concept is really, we're looking to say, look, I need authentication and authorization for my app, or maybe I just need authentication. You can do it that way, right? But you're saying, I want to bring in a solution, and Auth0 is one of them, right? I think we do, like Firebase has a similar sort of.
Yeah, there's a number of them out there, and they're at this point, their features are pretty similar. At this point, it's more kind of their approach and their like who their target is. So some of these companies target more like internal like employee applications for intranet kind of applications. Some are geared more towards startups. It just sort of depends on the market. We're really kind of geared towards developers. That's like our main focus is like developers and enterprise developers. so we're pretty flexible. But as far as features go, a lot of them are like pretty similar, and a lot of that is because there are actual official specs, like specifications on what what auth flows should look like. And so, there these like pretty solid guidelines on what you have to include, what you can include, what you can't include. And so, there's innovation around things like preventing brute force attacks and those kinds of things. But as far as like basic features go, they end up being pretty similar.
Nice. And so you have this concept of, okay, I want authentication. So I get that piece where I can identify a user and say they're allowed in my app or they're logged in or whatnot. And then maybe I want to add the authorization where I say I want claims or roles and say, hey, look, these users can do X, Y, Z, and these other users can do A, B, C. And I want to configure that. And then all of that, I want to be able to get that information back into my Angular app that then I can use that, like you mentioned, in things like guards can activate and things like that for routes or displaying different UI. And I can aggregate all that data back without having to implement that logic in my application.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You basically set all that up in Auth0, and then you can attach it to the tokens that come back in the response. And so then that can be part of the responses, like an array of the user's roles or permissions or things like that. And then you can check for those things when you're displaying parts of the UI or other things like that. And you can do the same thing on the back end and have the back end be able to check those roles and permissions and things like that.
And if I have something like Active Directory or some other database where I have my users and I want to store that information, can I wire up Auth0 to talk to that when it does its?
Yeah, you can. You can. I think Azure AD and stuff is might be an enterprise feature. I can't remember where the line is, but yeah, if you're working with Azure AD, you're probably an enterprise anyway. But yeah, we can integrate with basically any of the main like directory providers and things like that. That's actually one of the big misconceptions. Like a question I get at a lot of conferences is like, well, I don't want to use Auth0 as my user store, but that's actually not, that's just the default, but you can pretty much do whatever you want with it,
We had an episode last week on GraphQL stuff, and really it's real similar, right? Where you're saying like, I have this authorization, authentication layer that I want to implement that handles all that plumbing and that logic and that stuff, but I still have the ability to, what that connects to, orchestrate that, right? And then I can orchestrate on my end of how I handle the thing, and the authorization stuff is right there in the middle, brokering that communication.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have given a couple of talks on GraphQL auth stuff. I really like GraphQL. I also think it's funny because I think Bonnie was like maybe 2 years ago, like evangelizing for GraphQL, and I was sort of like, I don't know, that's a lot of hype. I don't know. And now I'm like,
I'm still evangelizing.
I feel like you were.
There were a lot of people that argued with me, but now they're. Everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Bonnie's like, I was right.
Yeah. Well, I was like really skeptical. I feel like there's always some like data graph thing that comes along every few years that claims to be like the REST killer and the thing that's gonna, I won't name any names, but there have been some companies that have come out with things that are, that are attempt to solve that problem, and they always just make my life worse. They just make everything really hard. And like GraphQL is the first one that I feel like actually is just like really solves a lot of problems. I think a lot of that is because it has a spec and it has like an independent governing body that's not, like Facebook handed over control of it to the GraphQL like oversight committee. And there's, so there's not just one company that's like building it to their own specification,
And then Heroku came along, or Hasura. Yeah, Hasura came along, and they're doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like a Hasura hipster, because I was like really into Hasura when they were first getting started, and
Were
nobody
you?
listened to me. Yeah, because we had one of my he's actually on the SDK team now, but he was on the content team before, and he wrote an article with Hasura like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago or something, when they were not very big, and so I've been on the Hasura train for a while, and now like they're really blowing up, and I can't help but feel a little bit of a like, yep,
you were there for the beginning.
I was there for that. Yeah,
we had him on the show.
From the first concert.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Hasura is basically it's a Postgres database that they spin up both the Postgres database and a GraphQL server on top of it, with like virtually no configuration. All you have to do is set up the tables in the database, and then it's like database driven GraphQL development. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, if you missed it last week, we have a video that kind of goes more into detail. So check that out.
We had Tan Micah Paul on the show.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, I don't know about this guy. And then I was like, you're going to like him. And they did. They did like him.
Hey, don't put that on me, Bonnie. I wasn't questioning nobody.
No, Justin was a suspicious one. Justin's like, I don't know about this guy. You know how Justin is. He's very
always like, here's Bonnie. Like in every life situation, you under the bus. You under the bus. Like,
yeah. Tom is also really funny too. Like he's like extremely smart, but he's also like hilarious. Like if you've ever watched any of his talks or anything, he's great.
I love that guy. He's a hoot. The first time I had him on NG Houston, I didn't know him, and he was really funny.
Yeah, the whole everybody at Hasura is really nice. Like they're all really nice people.
I was trying to get him to talk slower when he was on here last week, and then I just gave up.
I know. It's just honestly,
you can't stop the Tanmai.
When people have that much energy, it like just gets me more into the content. It doesn't matter how fast. So like I was just like I loved it. I thought it brought a lot. So you might have to like slow it down on replay, but
yeah.
Man. It's definitely good. Hey, Sam, I want you to kind of fill us in on maybe like why would we want to do authorization through something like Auth0 or a provider like that, right? Rather than roll our own.
Yeah, that's a super common question. I do think everybody should kind of go through the exercise of doing it themselves for like an educational project just to see what it's like. But I don't
wish that on people.
I don't.
What that sounds like to me is I really want you to go through the pain.
Yeah.
Just all the pain, and then you come to us. Like that's what that sounds like to me.
Well, it's like it's just funny because people ask like, well, why can't I just do this myself? And I'm like, go for it. Like, see what happens. Like
you can write all that code if you want.
All yourself if you want. But like the problem is that you also, I mean, the basic flow is not. Well, it's still pretty complicated, but like where you get in trouble is then you got to make sure you're also accounting for things like managing users' passwords and like making passwords secure, and what happens if there's a brute force attack, and what happens if like there's a whole bunch of security issues that the average developer doesn't really want to have to deal with, and rolling your own, whether it's cookie based or token based auth, like it might work for your little sample project or your educational thing, or it might, on the other hand, on the other end of the spectrum, if you have just like a huge company with unlimited resources and you can just devote all of your time to a custom platform, like that might also work. But for like the 80 to 90% that's in the middle there, like it's just not the risk that you're taking by writing your own auth stuff just really isn't worth it. When you're talking about like your data is like your most valuable asset as a company, like it's both your most like confidential asset and your like we all know that like data is the future of the economy. So like if you're kind of like reckless with that, you're putting yourself in a lot of risk. So whether you're using Auth0 or somebody else, I mean, once you're beyond kind of a hobby project, I think you've got to look at those risks squarely. I mean, we're seeing data breaches every single day, and a lot of them, the shocking thing is a lot of them are just because they didn't, I think there was a statistic in one of our articles that like 78% or 80% of like data breaches could be mitigated just by having multi-factor authentication. Like most of the data breaches out there are just because they're like simple login and password that don't have multi-factor, like, so there's just stuff like that it's just a huge risk. So you may as well outsource that to somebody whose job it is to worry about that stuff,
So I was just looking at the pricing model because obviously getting a service like this isn't free, but potentially it is. You mentioned like if you get beyond a hobby project. Now, if I'm creating a hobby project from brand new, how much is that going to cost me for, say, me and another dev to use Auth for that?
Well, so we actually have a pretty generous free plan.
Wait, did you just use the F word?
the fun F word.
Yeah, and I'm good with that word because I like that. Because if I'm just starting a project and I don't know if it's going to go anywhere or anything else.
The free plan is actually really good. It doesn't have some of the big features, but for something where you're just getting started, it doesn't matter. But it'll go for like.
Could you define big feature? What's a big feature in Auth?
Like the enterprise integrations. Let me pull up the chart just so I don't mess it up. But like, like connecting to Azure AD and things like that, that's not in the free plan. But let's see, we got, and you can't use a custom database in the free plan. But you can get up to 7,000 users. You can do.
Does that include social logins by chance?
2 social logins, yeah. So you could do like Twitter and Facebook, or Twitch and Facebook, or something like that. Google and Twitter, whatever. And then you can do a bunch of stuff with the customization, like the rules and the roles and all that stuff. So like all of the kind of like big features, like kind of the core features are in the free edition.
Sounds like a gateway drug.
It's great though because it's like spinning up a project where you don't have to like. I mean, you can spin up a new Angular project, sign up for the free plan, add the SDK, and have login in your app in like 10 minutes basically, and then move on.
Really, it's that fast to like get integrated?
Yeah, it is. We just did. I just did a workshop with Anna Sidre, who you all probably know and love. She's one of my teammates.
Love her.
And then
she's so great.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's even better as a teammate. Like she always adds like just this like extra dimension of like, she just always takes things a little bit, like just makes them a little bit more nice, just always like elevates everything. She's a great teammate. She always is trying to think of like how to make things more welcoming, how to make them more accessible. She's really phenomenal. So us and one of the people who wrote the SDK named Lucho, we did this workshop a few days ago for in conjunction with ngconf, and I mean it's a pretty. I'd be happy to share the code for that, but it's pretty straightforward. Let me share that code because
that's the ngconf enterprise.
Yeah,
I didn't know they were starting because I'm doing a workshop for them too, but I didn't know they were starting this early. That's cool.
I think it's actually not. I think it was actually
okay.
I think it was run. It was run by ngconf, but I don't actually think it was in
a part of the enterprise thing they're doing.
That's what I thought too, and I got confused. And I think technically it was considered a webinar brought to you by ngconf.
Yes. Yes, I'm doing one of those too. Okay, cool. Yeah. I got confused too. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but
I want to throw in a shout out really to Mark Thompson, who's in the chat. I'm very excited about. Have we had him on the show yet? By the way, have you guys met Mark Thompson? He's so cool.
He's the best.
We have to have him on the show, Justin. We have to. And also, we had a really good question.
This.
We had a question in the chat that I think went scrolling past, and I don't think we answered it yet. From Fergus. Justin, can you ping? Can you pin that and show it to about firewalls? Sam,
and there was a shout out from Jacob that said your workshop was sweet. So.
Oh well, Jacob is awesome. I'll send you your gift bag later, Jacob. Jacob has been a really supportive guy over the last few months.
Watch sysadmins
firewall silo. I don't know if I've encountered that before. Maybe if
you can't auth inside a firewall, Fergus. Just forget it.
I'm not sure like what the context is. Like, at what point in the process did you need the firewall?
Who gave you this firewall and why?
We have like IP address allowances, but
don't you like punch a hole through the firewall?
I assume so. Maybe drill a little hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't encountered that before, but I'd be curious to know like a little more information about the problem.
Fergus, just drill through it and then run a cable.
Is that Connie who said, I saw his demo in Global Angular Meetup this month? What?
Yes.
What don't you do?
Connie is incognito today.
Like, I don't understand. Like, how are you doing so many things?
No, I think she might be talking about Mark.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Dang it, Sam. Stop.
Yeah. No, Mark is on a rocket ship, so everybody better get on board now because that guy's the man.
He is.
Better watch out.
He has more energy than anyone should be allowed to. I got off a call with him, and it was like 10 p.m., and I was wide awake, and I was so excited.
Yeah.
It's contagious.
This is the Mark from the Angular team, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Same Mark. Okay, I was making sure.
Same guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And if he also has an email list that people he has a blog and an email list.
Like a newsletter?
Cool people.
Yeah, like an email newsletter. I'll put the link in the private chat so we can throw it in there.
Hey, Rares.
Rares is also really cool. He's been he's been very active on Angular Nation, and he's working on Angular in Espanol. How cool is that?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so Fergus said a UK government thing, nothing in. Yeah, so I think in that case you would use like the private cloud. Like it'd be a whole different thing. You do the private cloud and then set up like a networking, like virtual network and all that stuff. But
so the first thing that comes to my mind isn't like, why would I use your service? Because I want to roll my own, because that sounds gross. The first thing that comes to mind is actually, which this might be really dumb, but speed. Like worried about slowness of using an outside thing to do authentication. Is that an issue or not really?
What kind of like at what point in the process?
I'm imagining like my users logging in being like, wait, not Auth0.
No, it's wicked fast. It's very fast. I was actually shocked. The first time that I tried the Auth0, like, just plug it in, like I was shocked at how fast I hooked it up and how fast it worked. It was much faster than my own code. I'll tell you, I was a beginner back then, and my own code wasn't working that great. But the Auth0 was like, I hooked it up and it went. It was too easy. Like Firebase, like that's how they get you,
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is with Auth, like you're gonna have to call a server one way or another, whether it's your server or Firebase's server or Auth0's server. So there shouldn't really be a speed differential. If anything, it should be faster just because of the infrastructure that people like Auth0 and Firebase can afford. So because either way, even if you rolled your own, you would have to build your own authorization server. And so your front end would still have to call your authorization server to get the tokens and everything like that. So there's still a round trip to a server and a database in there, but it shouldn't be any slower. It certainly shouldn't be any slower. If anything, it's probably going to be faster.
So are there uptime guarantees? Because obviously as you're pulling in external factors, and I'm not looking for exact quotes, but I'm assuming there's something to basically say, hey, if you need us, yeah, we're pretty much going to be here.
Yeah, I don't know what the guarantees are, and I don't want to say it if I'm wrong. I know that there are guarantees. You can also
$0 a month. I want me some guarantees.
Yeah. Well, you can look at we actually just launched a new status page, status.auth0.com. It's very beautiful. It was written with Tailwind and Next.js. And you can see that for the past 12 months, we've had 99.99% uptime. But for looking at things like machine to machine and MFA, it's even more. It's like 999, like 3 nines, or I guess that's 5 nines. I always forget whether the nines come after the decimal or include the 99.
Hey, we don't discriminate against nines. It doesn't matter what side of the decimal. It's a 9.
Yeah, lots of nines. So we have pretty impressive uptime. I mean, we're uptime, we're up like nearly all the time. I know that there are different guarantees for like enterprise contracts and stuff like that, but yeah.
So one of the things that Bonnie mentioned early on was this documentation and information that Auth0 shares as well. I know through like blog posts, through the documentation on that site, there's a wealth of information for learning about. I mean, we talked about like, why would you want to roll your own? Like, stay out of that zone. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. But if you do, and you want to deep dive into that, there's great content there. I know that I've dug into that a lot in the past to really start understanding more about, the tokens, the cookies and what goes into that and all that whole process. That information is there. So it's not just the service, but it's also, all this content that Auth0 provides us really great for learning about that stuff.
Yeah, the blog has become a real like huge resource. Like that's how I started. That's how I got involved with Auth0 in the first place, was through their guest author program. And then that's when I first started working at Auth0. I was on the content team, and it's really high quality. It's a lot of great, like really thorough articles on everything. I mean, there is an auth focus to it, but there's so much like high quality tutorial content on like every technology you can think of, basically. I mean, we just came out with like a Flutter auth tutorial, and like, so I mean, it's a great resource. That team is really awesome. They take a lot of pride in their work and write really high quality stuff. We have my teammate Dan created the complete guide to Angular authentication. I mean, it's with Auth0, but it's like really thorough. We actually used it as the basis of the workshop. And so I just pasted that link in there. Oh, Brocky, I need to find you the other link for the Angular SDK. It's this one. The SPA SDK is like the generic. Oh wait, no, you did find that. Sorry, I misread the link.
Okay.
But yeah.
I just want to share, because everybody's going to be interested in going out and say, hey, I want to try this. But as you pointed out at the top of the show, that the new Angular SDK from Auth0 is kind of like where it's at, pretty much. Install, include the module, configure it, and you're off and running.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things where like, as an Angular developer, when I used it, I was like, oh, wow, that's nice. Because regardless of actually working for them, like it's legit. It's really nice to use, I, for one, really dislike SDKs that are difficult to use. I feel like my patience threshold is really low. Like I go from like 0 to forget it. I'm just going to use something else very quickly.
So you're saying no more creating of the 15-point auth story to kick off a new project. I got to drop that down to a 1-point story.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, because even before, like, you have to write the service yourself and write all those observables and all that, and just like debugging all those observables is hard, you know?
Yeah, I think one of those friction things that you're talking about too, in terms of like the difficulty of working with the SDK and bailing out on it, right, is the documentation and the guides come into play so much in that. I feel
for sure.
that, you know, something may be great, but if that documentation is not there, it's hard to kind of get started with something like that. And kind of to come full circle with, you know, your talk, your book, and you being into DevRel and things like that, like. How much do you focus and have that opportunity to do things like that where you can impact the learning of how people use the SDK and the advocacy for helping people get into those sort of things?
Yeah. The docs are super important. And I should say, like, if people, this is a new release, so if people find like problems in the docs, let us know, because we definitely want to like smooth that out. I think I missed what did you have what was the question? Question in there.
I kind of rambled off a bunch of stuff.
I think
just your opportunity and how much you're involved in with kind of the DevRel concept of helping bridge that gap. When you talk about, like, if I came to you and said, hey man, I want to use this SDK, but there's a lot of friction. I don't know how to get going with it or what, like how do you solve that problem? Like from your perspective, like, are you diving in and helping to solve that sort of thing?
Yeah. So in this case, I was really involved in this SDK. I actually wrote the guard that's in it. That's my like tiny little contribution. But I was also really involved in like the process and the like the feature develop, like the like architectural and all that stuff. Like myself and Anna and other people in Auth 0 who weren't necessarily on the SDK team but were Angular people, we were like really involved from the get-go on that and reviewed the docs ahead of time and all of that. And so that's like one level that we're really involved, is just at the beginning of it. And we did the same thing for the React SDK as well. And then, yeah, when people write in, either, you know, DMing me or on our community forum or anything like that, like we try to, you know, keep our ear to the ground on what trends we're seeing with those things, and then bring that to the attention of the different teams that might be involved, you know. And that's kind of how this new Angular SDK and the React SDK to a lesser extent, but the Angular SDK was largely because of that process, because it was like, hey, the community is like, this is not working. Like this just doesn't like jiving with people, you know? So we would try again, and then that didn't work. And so, you know, so like we're iterating on that feedback that we get. And so if people have trouble, then, you know, I either try to help them individually or, you know, point them to a resource or, you know, something like that. And then keep those trends in mind in case I can bring feedback back to like the docs team or the SDK team or anyone like that.
And then I'd imagine it's like a combination when you talk about the resources, right? The documentation itself that people can read, but also things like workshops and small videos and tutorials and things like that, like figuring out all that content to help people learn those things.
Right. Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself, I know you talk about being a teacher and enjoying that aspect of it, right? Do you find yourself, as you learn these little nuggets and things, you're like, I just want to quickly produce like a 5-minute video to share that knowledge, right? And just like rapidly create these things where you can help people, you know, and capture that at the moment.
Yeah, I do. I have a long backlog. Luckily, like Egghead provides some of that for me. Like I created this collection of Angular basics videos, and I can just like add to it whenever I want. So I can just like make a new little like 5-minute video and throw it up on there, like as I'll encounter something that somebody asks a question about. But I obviously like, I like constantly have like a long list of things that I like, videos that I want to make. And I'm just like getting to this point in my career where I'm starting to do more strategy and program running and things like that. And I'm making less content, and it's hard. It's like, I want to spend time doing content and building things and stuff like that. And now I'm starting to get more into the like strategy and, you know, that programs and things like that.
Well, maybe like cloning ourselves is just around the corner. And we can
Hopefully.
start solving some of these things, right?
I could definitely use a clone. It would really, I feel like it would really help. I don't know how Amy would feel about that, but it would.
I think we have room for another Sam Julien in the world.
Plus, I mean, that may make some new requirements needed for authentication, right? I mean, if we could have like three of me authenticating, I don't know if I would really want that, right?
That's true.
It would actually be cool to have three Sams, please, because we could have one for the Auth0 stuff, one for the community stuff, and then one just for hanging out with Amy. Amy would be cool with that.
Now you're getting greedy.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I was thinking of Amy. Come on.
What about the AngularAir, Sam? Can we have one of those?
Just another.
Oh, can we just have one here? You could just hang with us all the time.
Permanent
You have time, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like a 24-hour stream AngularAir Sam. He just like keeps it going. Like
We'll probably have to do this like Blade Runner style where they have limited lifespans so that like, it doesn't replicant Sam.
Last week, we had one of our picks was that What If book. Was it called What If, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
by the guy who does XKCD.
yeah.
That's such a great book.
Oh,
I feel like we're having our What If moment right now.
That's such a loved that.
I
love that. I loved the
I'm
one.
looking at it on my shelf.
I love the one about like soulmates. Like, what would happen if everybody really did have one soulmate, and you have to line everybody in the entire world up in 2 concentric circles that cover the entire perimeter of the globe, and like have them rotate one at a time. And it would take like 100 years, and people would die in the meantime. So ridiculous. I love it because he does the math. Like he actually just like calculates everything out. That's a great book.
Awesome. Well, we're at the top of the hour, so we better do our picks for this episode today. Unless there's any final thoughts or mentions on authorization that we want to do, we'll leave it open. All good.
I don't think so.
Can you provide us what link would be best to find your book? Because I know that DevRel is incredibly rewarding. I haven't had the privilege to actually take on that as part of my career, but everybody I've talked to really enjoys doing DevRel.
It's just I just pasted it in there. It's just getting started in devrel.com.
Cool.
And
Just
it's
that I
$9, and yeah,
Worth every penny.
There. We'll have it down there at the bottom of the video while we do our picks.
And if you don't want to pay the $9, you can just give him your email address and get the first chapter for free and then think about it.
That's true.
Nice. All right. Well, let's do some picks. Panelists first. Any panelists? Let's do the old virtual classroom thing. Raise your hand if you've got a pick. All right. Alyssa, I saw your hand first.
Has a pick. It may or may not be chicken related. So if you haven't heard, I don't know how you haven't heard yet, there is a free conference going on next week. It's called DevReach, and we shall share the link, but please register. We are doing on Thursday specifically an Angular relay. And this beautiful crew here will be on doing a mukbang. We'll be eating a brunch, or for some of us, an incredibly early breakfast. Some of us might just be sipping on coffee. Yeah. But it's going to be a really, really cool show. We've got lots of incredible speakers, and we're giving away prizes. Lots of like Amazon gift cards, t-shirts, swag. So come, we're going to have a good time, spread some joy, have some laughs, talk about Angular. And then the rest of the week, of course, there are other events going on. So check it out.
Nice. Bonnie?
I just want you to tell Alyssa, that box that she sent us had this, like, it was like all the swag, and it was the most amazing candy, and we ate like the whole bag. It was terrible. I mean, it was good, but it was so good that we ate it all. It was crazy.
Which candy did you get? Was it chocolate caramely?
No, it was. I asked Meryl, but it was amazing. It was like this crunchy. I don't know. It was good. It was really good. It was really good. Anyway, okay. I have two real quick picks. What are they? Oh yeah. Community office hours on Angular Nation right after this. We are bringing Sam Julien with us, so if you want to meet him and hang out with him and turn your camera on and do that, then you should. Don't wait until the last minute, because it always takes me a minute to approve the invitations. But you know, if you haven't joined yet, go join and come and join us over there. And then also just a quick reminder that we're starting Angular Architect training on Monday. So if you haven't joined yet and you want to join, get in there. Those are my picks.
Nice. Mike, did you have any picks today? Or pick?
One is very specific for an audience member today. Mark, sign up. Come join us. Come do an episode with us. So, Mark,
yes.
Join.
Did we get him? Have I said
that's?
I've picked him randomly.
Yeah. We do need to get him on the I'm going to send him the link right now so we can get him on the calendar, because obviously we need Mark Texan in here. Obviously.
Right. I've mentioned a few TV shows before in the past. TV shows as in like internet streaming shows. But I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, a show is coming back from the past. Dexter. That used to be on Showtime. If anybody watched that, it's kind of dark, kind of funny.
Like another season?
I think it may be 10 episodes or something like that. But it's come back. Michael C. Hall's come back and everything. Yeah. Check it out. Dexter was awesome. Love it.
My kids were like obsessed with that show a couple years ago.
I still am. I actually rewatched it on Netflix a few months back.
Nice. Well, I've got a pick. And my pick is a show as well. It's actually a movie. It's the 40-year-old version like Angular. What version of Angular are we on? I think it's an indie film. It's on Netflix. I stayed up way late last night watching it. It was amazing.
What is it about?
It's about this female playwright that is 40, and she's trying to get her play going, but she decides that her real voice inside of her is doing spitting bars, rapping lyrics, hip hop. So it was awesome. I loved it. So that's my pick. 40-year-old version. Check it out. Netflix. The other one's good too. I mean, if you're looking for the last, but this one was awesome. So I loved it. All right, Sam.
Yeah, I will do. I've got two picks that are both games. One is a card game called Star Realms. I don't know if any of you heard of this. It's really awesome. It's at least 2 players, and it's like $12, and it's like a kind of like a deck building game, but it's really easy to learn and teach. So like very fun, very entertaining. It also has a pretty high quality app, like an online version and a phone version. So it's a great game. It's, a lot of strategy and things like that. And then if people have not played Among Us, now is the time. Among Us is so much fun. It's like you and 7 of your closest friends, or like, I think it's up to 10 people, and you're all like trying to fix a spaceship, and somebody on the crew is trying to sabotage you and like murder the crewmates, and you have to find out who the imposter is.
I played something like this on Jackbox. Is this on, like, what is this on?
No, it's like, so this game's actually been around for a few years, but it's because of the quarantine, it's just like had this like massive resurgence. It's on either mobile, like either iOS or Android, or it's on Steam, like on a PC. And it's really cheap. I think it's like $1 or $2 or something. And online, easy to learn. You don't have to be like technical or a gamer or anything like that. And it's a great like virtual party game, basically. Highly recommend it for party fun.
It's cross-platform too, so you can play people from mobile, desktop. You can play with each other.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like just the barrier to entry of it is so low that like you can get like 9 of your friends together, and it doesn't matter what device they have. It doesn't matter if they've played it before. Like you can just get up and running in like a couple of minutes. So I did that with some friends. Do you need to be
in the same room? Or are you like playing? Like
you're playing.
Do you need
you're
to be
like
together?
All on a spaceship together. You're like these little cartoon characters on a spaceship together, and you're like logged into the same.
No, I meant like IRL. Like, do you have to be in the same room as each other? Or
no, you can be anywhere. Like, so it's a great quarantine game because you can be like anywhere in the world and play together. And so what my friends and I did was we had like a Discord like group chat, and so we were on just like a Discord phone call. And and like just chatting and like, you know, trying to like throw each other off the trail and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. It's a really like cheap and easy, like fun game to play with a lot of people.
We should do a stream.
Yeah,
we all play
that
it.
would also be really fun, doing a stream of like AngularAir Among Us.
Among Us.
I am 100% for that. Let's do it.
I've
been wanting to play Among Us, but I don't know enough people.
I know, when you say, 9 of your closest friends,
I think you can have, it's just that it's more fun with more people. I think you have to have like 4 at minimum. So I think it's like 4 to 10, but we found that as people had to drop off, it got less fun because, like your probability of who the imposter is like, 1 out of 4 is not very like 1 out of 5 or something, like, so. Yeah. But like we could definitely get a few more folks on here. And
no, we should do it, Justin. Let's plan what'd you say the max was? 10?
10, I think.
10? Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's find 10 of our closest Angular buds.
Yeah, I think that'd be really funny.
A neat little fact about that. I guess they were working on Among Us too, but it's blown up so much right now. So many people are streaming it. So many of the streamers are actually doing it that they're like, okay, we're just going to make Among Us next level.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
If you have Jackbox, like the Jackbox they have different sets, but one of them has a game that's very similar that me and my family love to play called Push the Button. Very same idea, but it's just in the Jackbox realm. So
Jackbox is another great, that's another great like
I feel like it's the laziest. Like, me and my family used to do board games like all the time, and now like my game shelf just like sits there gathering dust because we do all of these like Jackbox games. So I love it and I hate it because I miss like,
Jess and I were just talking about that before we went live, like board games and like having physical artifacts and stuff. I love board games. Let me just push my glasses up a little bit higher.
Nice. All right. Well,
Rara said they removed the limit,
but we're good. We're good on that.
Sorry, Justin.
Did you have something to say, Bonnie? Go ahead.
What do you say about what?
I was just saying, Rara said they removed the limit for Among Us. That's important.
You're saying there's no limit for people?
Oh,
I'm not saying it. Rara said it.
Okay, so what's StreamYard's limit?
10.
Good question.
StreamYard is 10.
We're still at 10 beeps.
All right, we're going to plan that. That sounds good. Sam, you want in on that?
I would totally do that. I think that'd be fun.
Let's figure it out. We'll do it. That'll be awesome. I'm for it. I've been wanting to play it, so that'll be good. All right, hey, Sam, thanks a ton for coming on, sharing your time, sharing your knowledge. We really appreciate you coming on the show once again, and thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love getting to hang out with you all, even though we can't do it in person.
For sure. All right, that's a wrap. Have a good one, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.